Hello and welcome, everyone. Welcome to today's talk, which is Running on Empty, Practical Pranic Healing Tools for Preventing and Recovering from Burnout. My name is Jewell Dionisio, and before we go further, I'd like to take a moment to say thank you to Alison Sehu for inviting me to be a guest speaker on this very important topic. I'd also like to say thank you to those of you who are joining in, whether you're catching this replay for the first time or you joined us for the Saturday session. I appreciate that you're taking this time to learn the tools and the strategies for preventing and recovering from burnout in your own life. Because as we know, this topic of burnout, it's one of the most challenging ones and one of the most prolific, especially for helpers, healers, and leaders. But before we move forward, let me tell you a little bit about myself. So, again, my name is Jewell Dionisio, and I am the founder of North Star Energy and Leadership. And I've spent over 20 years helping leaders and professionals navigate high stress and high pressure environments. And more recently, as a certified associate pranic healer, I've been integrating pranic healing and energy healing practices, as well as neuroscience and nervous system regulation practices into my leadership consulting and coaching. And the why this conversation matters so much to me, it's because I have had my own burnout recovery journey. And now it is my mission to help others who may be walking a similar path to discover and lead with their North Star, also known as their higher selves. So without further ado, let's begin. I like to start off, especially my pranic healing talks or sessions, with an invocation. So it's just a grounding moment, and you'll hear the recording in a little bit. You can choose to join me, or you can choose to just take a sacred pause, whichever you wish. That's totally okay. And it's only about 30 seconds, and then we'll continue. Okay?
We say to the Supreme God, we thank you for your blessing. Lord Mahakuriti Medic and all the great, great ones, thank you. You say at the top of it, thank you. All the holy gurus, holy mantras, saint, archangels, holy angels, and spiritual helpers, we thank you for the inner healing. We thank you for your compassionate, purifying life and soothing healing energy. With gratitude, with respect, with love, you say thank you.
So be it. Okay. Not too bad, right? So if you were here, I would ask, drop it in the chat. So I'll just ask that you reflect, and if you so desire, feel free to write it down, a piece of paper in your journal. Why did you decide to attend a burnout talk today? What was your why behind it? And then I'd like to ask you, when you hear the word burnout, what comes to mind? You can choose to keep those private to yourself, or you can share it. You can share it with me on any of my socials. I'll share that later. If you want to have a chat, I'd love to chat with you about what your reflections are throughout this talk. But before we do, let's get started. Okay. So I felt the need for us to have common language on what the full picture of burnout is. And so, according to APA, WHO, all the three-letter medical organizations, burnout is characterized by three core dimensions, and these stem from chronic stress. Exhaustion, you can read the slide yourself, cynicism, as well as reduced efficacy. And so, while most definitions, they started as it being attached to workload, stress, and burnout, in recent years, like within the last 20 years or so, burnout has also been recognized as being attached to persistent, unmanaged stress in other non-work areas of life, such as caregiving, parenting, relationships, and life transitions, right? And I think this is something that is not necessarily new for us. We know that burnout affects far more than just our work performance or us at work, right? And these next slides, let's see, kind of tell the story of that, how it affects us, right? That burnout is not the whole story, that physically, mentally, emotionally, and energetically, burnout affects every layer of our experience, right? And especially for as pranic healers, we often recognize the energetic dimensions before anything else because we're taught to scan, right? Before and after scan. So we know these things and we're aware of these things, especially as people, pranic healers or other energy healers, right? So this is what I call one of those gold star slides, one that I really want to call out to you because these are the five hidden energy leaks. So I'll try not to go over all of them too in depth, but I did want to give some examples so that because examples are more common between us. So with regards to living on output instead of renewal, that could look like seeing clients all day and skipping meals or rest breaks or even bio breaks. That could be healing everyone else, but never scheduling or making time for healing or even doctor's appointments for yourself. It could be feeling guilty when you rest because it feels unproductive. A lot of my clients do report that when they get home from a full day of work, it's hard for them to stop to exit out of that work mode because they're just used to being productive all day. Does that resonate? And so ignoring early signals. Sometimes that looks like our body, brains, or energy signaling to us. So that could be tight shoulders, or when you clench, or you tense your jaw, and so that becomes chronic pain. And maybe that clenched jaw turns into TMJ, which turns into migraines, which you may get um, frequently or with some frequent reoccurrence, right? It could be irritability that you dismiss as just a bad day, but then maybe those snappy days turn into multiple days or weeks, right? Those are signals. It could be you having trouble concentrating or remember or going into another room and not remembering or just being forgetful about things, not having the attention span that you may once have had. And then when it comes to serving without healthy boundaries, that could look like saying yes, even though you weren't sure, or maybe you were sure that you didn't want to say yes, right? It could be about thinking about your clients well after the session is over and feeling super responsible for fixing or rescuing them. Or, and this is common for many of us, it could look like taking on work because no one else is going to do it, right? And then we have energetic incongruence. So, what that looks like is say you're a pranic healer or you're a therapist, right? You're in a helping profession and you know exactly what's going to support your energy or your well-being, but you don't consistently do it. For a pranic healer, that could be teaching meditation on twin hearts, but you don't or meditation or pranic breathing or any of the practices, but you do not practice it regularly yourself. It could be recommending like a salt bath or other pranic solutions, energy healing solutions, but again, you skip them for yourself. And then finally, it could, if you are a therapist or a coach, it could be, coaching a client through a somatic exercise that would help them, but you don't move. You don't take the time to exercise or take care of your body or listen to your body or doing the somatic things that your body needs, right? And then finally, misdirected attention. That typically looks like uh, replaying yesterday's difficult decision, or sorry, difficult conversations all day, the next day, and the next day, and the next day, right? It could be rumination or perseveration. It could be worrying about a client after the session is over, maybe texting them or seeing if they're okay. Or sometimes people rehearse tomorrow's problems before, like, I know they're going to react like this, and this happens, and then you start feeling it in your solar plexus, the worry of what you believe is going to happen without having any solid proof. So those are some of the examples for these five hidden energy leaks, right? And so one of the things I wanted to impress upon you is that every thought is energy. And Grandmaster Chokoksui says, where attention goes, energy flows, right? Or where focus goes, energy flows. And if our attention is constantly feeding fear, guilt, resentment, worry, any of those feelings, and we're not erasing and disintegrating them, we're not doing anything about them, we're not sweeping them out, right? If we're not doing any of those things, what we're actually doing is we're directing our life force into those thought forms. We are energizing those thought forms. So, this concept that leadership, it's not just about managing your time, right? It's about managing your attention. Because again, attention directs energy, and energy determines capacity, right? I'll say it again. Energy determines capacity. One final note that I'd like to leave with you is note of all these five hidden energy leaks, none of these are about working too hard. They're actually about how we relate to our own energy. And that's why you can see two people. Like, have you ever been felt burnt out, but then you have a counterpart at work or where have you, and you think, why aren't they feeling the same way that I'm feeling? Why does it seem so easy for them? Well, that's why. Two people can have the same workload and one thrives while the other one doesn't because of how we relate to our energy, because of how we let our energy determine our capacity and whether we allow these hidden and sometimes not so hidden energy leaks drain our energy and our capacity. Okay. I want to know. Here's a moment for reflection. Which of these hidden energy leaks resonated most with you today? Okay, so really quick on this slide, I thought it would be interesting to share with you the different patterns between men and women. They are different. These, the list on here, they're not, this is not a comprehensive list, and they are not absolutes. And I'm sure many of us will recognize ourselves in both columns. It's just here to demonstrate that although we may have different patterns between genders, it's the same energetic cost. And so I ask you this, of these lists, whether, take away the women often, men often, which patterns do you recognize within yourself? Okay. So this is another one of those gold star slides. I know there's a lot of information, so I'll try not to talk to all the things. You can read it, and I'll also share the slide deck with you if you'd like, so you can look at the slides in more in greater detail. But the things that I would like to impress upon you are that some of the biggest insights from pranic healing that I've received is that not all burnout looks or feels the same for every person, right? And I think we know that. Two people can both say, I'm exhausted, as I mentioned in the last slide, but the reason they're exhausted may be different. So, on the left-hand side, where we see congestion, that means that sometimes we're carrying too much. Maybe it's too many emotions, and the quality of those emotions, right? Too many conversations and the quality of those conversations. Maybe we're carrying too much worry or too many unresolved experiences. Maybe we think about those unresolved experiences or trauma or what have you and how they've affected us and how we feel about it. And then when that happens, our systems, our chakras become congested. And you can see there what's happening energetically. Typically, the solar plexus, again, where we carry those like worry, anxiety, as well as the chakra. And it just makes it difficult to process, release, and reset. And then on the right hand side, for that's where we're simply running on empty. It's pure depletion, right? We're giving more energy than we've been restoring. And the battery is in the red zone. It's low. And so I want you to notice that with both columns, they include mental fatigue, emotional changes, and other physical symptoms. That is intentional. It's because the symptoms overlap between congestion and depletion. The thing that makes the difference, what differs between them is the underlying energetic pattern, right? What it feels like. So just really quick, one of the tools that I've prepared for you is a quick self audit. It's a 48-hour energy audit tool. And because I think of my energy as a battery, right? And I use this example. So many of us have smartphones, right? I have my iPhone, and I don't know about you, but my iPhone does not get 100% charged anymore because of whatever I've done to it. Maybe I overcharged it, right? Or maybe I I I undercharged it. Something that I did. The capacity is now only at about 70 to 75%. And so I use that example because much like the batteries that we have here, or just batteries in general, when we don't take care of it, when we don't take care of our internal battery, as you know, our capacity doesn't always stay at 100%, even when we feel like we've done everything to fully charge it. And so for this self audit, pick 2 days out of your upcoming week. Just a suggestion, you don't have to do it. Pick days though, and identify what are the energizer, what really energizes your battery, and what are the drainers. And if your drainers heavily outweigh your energizers, there may be activities. Look at what you're doing. There may be an activity or two that you may need to look at as being something that maybe not is good, may not be good for you, right? Some triggers might be, is it inciting cynicism or dread? Or is it decreasing your efficacy? Or is it increasing your exhaustion, right? Those three core domains we talked about earlier. So I have a QR code for that, and I'll share it with you at the end, so you can use that to track your energy for at least 2 days. Okay. So all of this leads to, I want to broach to you, maybe we need to ask a different question. Instead of asking, how do I recover from burnout? What if we started asking ourselves, what are these burnout symptoms? What are they trying to tell me? And how, based on what they're telling me, how can I proactively care for my own energy? Because I'm starting to see that burnout isn't like solely the problem, it's actually the signal, right? And that leads us to energy stewardship. Here's a reflection question for you. What would become possible if you treated your energy as one of your greatest, most important responsibilities and priorities? What would become possible? That's where energy stewardship comes in. And it is the intentional practice, all the things that you do to protect, restore, cultivate, and direct your energy so that you can serve, so that you can lead, and that so you can live with greater clarity, capacity, and purpose. That's where your sustainable leadership begins, with your energy stewardship. Now, you may be saying, okay, I already knew this, but hold on, hold on. Let's talk about it a little bit more. Based on the teachings of Grandmaster Chokoksui, there are three principles for sustainable service. The first is, and for those of you who have studied, who've gone through the classes, prevention is easier than the cure. He actually says this. It's easier to prevent it than to cure it. And then two, you cannot sustainably give what you do not consistently cultivate. You have to tend to yourself first. It's that whole put the mask on yourself before you put it on the child or anyone else thing, right? I had such a hard time with that. I don't know why. Did you? I want to know. If we had comments right now, I'd be like, leave it in the comments. But that was one of the hardest things for me to assimilate when on my recovery path. And then the third one is serving others includes stewarding yourself. It is not an indulgence. And actually, after where was it? I was having a discussion and we were talking about Grandmaster Chokoksui, and it's really not, because as a healer, you you wouldn't want to be a congested and or usually and depleted healer healing others, right? That's not good energy hygiene. So when you steward yourself, that's not absolutely not an indulgence. It's a requirement. And when you think of it that way, then I have to ask you, what are the daily practices that you have put in place for yourself to ensure that energetic hygiene, to ensure your sustainable capacity, right? On this slide are small daily practices. Some people do all of them and then some, right? But some people have trouble doing even one, and that's okay. We're all at different levels. So this is just to show you some of the things that you can do to start your day off right, the things that you can do throughout the day to help steward for yourself, and also the things that you can do in the evening, preferably a few hours before you go to sleep, so that you can make sure that you don't hold on to any inappropriate or cords, connections, or dirty prana, when you lay your head down on your pillow. So you can take a look at this. Again, I'll share the slides with you, and you can think about which one can you, maybe one thing like a meditation on twin hearts, sacred pause, is this mine to carry? And then maybe sweep to remove something. Just one thing. Just one thing. Start with one. And if this feels too overwhelming, here's a list that you can just start with one. You can do a meditation on twin hearts meditation. Try try doing 3 days in a row, then four, then five, right? We Kaizen method, you just do 1% better every day. Or you could do pranic breathing, disconnection and cutting of the cords. You could do sweeping of your solar plexus chakra, your ajna. There's so many things that we can do. We just have to build that discipline and routine around it. So I've given you some ideas. You may have already been doing them, or maybe you already knew about them. What I am trying to impress upon you is, again, that energetic stewardship for yourself. The one thing, it may not even be an energy practice per se, like sweeping or cutting cords. It may just be asking yourself, maybe this week, what is one thing you'll stop caring so that you can better steward your energy, right? So if we're feeling burnt out, we're feeling those signals, we're hearing those signals. Okay, so what is that signal telling you? I think the answer will give you some information about what you could possibly stop caring. And so I'll leave you with this. As you think about your own energy stewardship, maintain that clarity. Know where your energy is going. Also, be mindful of your capacity. Is this mine to carry? Can I put it down? How can I put it down? Right? And alignment. Make sure, check in with yourself. Am I serving from fullness or am I feeling depleted? How am I going to serve a fellow product healer or a client if I'm feeling depleted myself, right? And so try the energy audit. That's the free resource on the bottom left hand, that QR code. If you take a camera, take a picture of it, it'll take you to my Google Drive and you can just download it and start editing using it. You can share it with other people whom you think might want it or benefit from it. And so the other two things on this slide are I do have two upcoming talks. One is the Superwoman Trap. It's a masterclass that I'm offering in less than 2 weeks, about 12 days. Yeah, 11 days. Today's July 11th. The Superwoman Trap, how to exit the burnout cycle without losing your edge. And then I am also doing a series, a webinar series in conjunction with APHA. It's about leadership tools for a high demand world. And so I think the first session that we'll do will also be on burnout. And so that's on August 4th as well. If you want to connect, I would love to continue this conversation that I'm having with myself right now, with you here watching. Uh, Find me at my website, which is leadwithnorthstar.com, or even better, connect with me on Facebook or Instagram, both of them. I check both of them pretty regularly. And I'd love to continue this conversation. If you have any questions, comments, or just any feedback for me, I would love to hear from you. And with that, here's the Q&A, but no one's here but me. So I'll let you know that I will share this with you with a link with this recording. And shall we end with a Thanksgiving prayer? And then I'll bid you adieu. I'm this ends with a blessing and then hands in prayer. Okay? It's only 30 seconds.
More you serve only equality and prosperity to all. To the Supreme God, we thank you for these great, great blessings.
May all of you be blessed. Have a wonderful, wonderful day or night whenever you see this. Atma Namaste.